Anti-Afro Svengalis. What do you think about that? Trying to get out. Stuck. Trapped. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But before I do, I want to answer the poll that was put up on the community wall about probation. Here it is. If someone is on probation, is probation violated only if a person commits another criminal offense? The answer to the question is no. You do not have to commit another crime in order to rack up a probation violation. Obviously, what we all just witnessed would be considered a yes. I'm going to play this clip. It doesn't have words. Be sure to read the screen so you can see exactly what happened. Stay tuned and I will return. Okay, you saw somebody coming in there trying to steal some money and got a big surprise with that new security system at the bank and was so frazzled couldn't get out simply because it's pulling the door the wrong way. It relates to the situation at hand that we're dealing with rage pigs. Feels trapped, desperate, but came in there with a whole different plan to hijack money, take that wasn't his, take property that wasn't his, and expect to get away with it. Then the anger at being stopped, the whole plan blew up. And then these threats, you better let me out of here, is pretty much what he was saying. There's a customer and you open up this door. Issuing threats with having no authority or power. Totally, completely pathetic. But we saw with Rage Pigs how this behavior plays out on YouTube and off YouTube. And off YouTube, by all accounts, very strong proof there appears to be a probation term that's active. And based on the response to the revelations, it certainly seems that Rage Pigs has put himself on probation here in these YouTube streets. But I want to continue talking about probation, specifically how it operates in the state of Georgia. Again, they call it community supervision. If you're given a curfew while you're on probation, community supervision, and the conditions imposed are you be at home between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. If for whatever reason law enforcement sees that you're out or encounters you and you're outside of that timeline, they can let probation know you haven't committed a crime. They're not going to arrest you. They're going to let probation know that they had this encounter with you. However, the person on probation is required to let the probation department know whenever they have contact with law enforcement for whatever reason, even if it's mistaken identity. If you do not let the probation department know that you had an encounter with law enforcement, that's a violation of probation. It's not a crime, but you're violating your terms of probation. Here's another example. It is not against the law to consume alcohol if you're 21 and older. If your probation conditions state you are not to consume alcohol, and through whatever circumstance it's discovered that you are drinking alcohol, you are violating probation. There are other examples. If you are on social media, let's make this clear, and you are harassing people on social media, You are targeting people, trying to torment them. You're posting pictures of people's kids. You're threatening to do something to the children, as in bringing their photos out into a more visible space that you found on social media because you're mad at their parents. These bizarre depictions of infants with different faces on their bodies and adult faces on their bodies and people in kids' clothes, all incredibly bizarre, as is the habitual pattern of placing men in women's clothes, leveling false allegations of pedophilia and child molestation and swearing up and down somebody's Eddie Long and putting their face up there with Eddie Long. Rest assured, this falls under the category of harassment. Not necessarily criminal behavior, but it's definitely something a probation officer would warn you about. Now, let's say, for example, the probation officer blew it off. You can go to the supervisor. It will never, ever be on one level only. But this complacency of harassing others, calling them bitches, talking about their parents, lying on them, haranguing them, screaming and hollering, this expectation to be able to say and do whatever Rage Pigs wanted to do was never reality. What Rage Pigs always wanted was to someone to jump up on a panel and either scream back at him or allow themselves to sit there while they're screamed at, and the host, whether it's Rage Pigs or an apologist, would just turn off your microphone. I am saying these behaviors are definitely within the confines of probation, having the authority to warn the person on probation. And probation will likely say, I would discourage you from interacting with this person. Can they make that an order? That's a gray area. But if incidents continue, then there's an issue. Absolutely an issue. If they are warning you that this isn't something you should be engaging in and it starts escalating or re-escalates, the person can find themselves slapped with a probation violation or notice of violation. And of course, you'd have to go to the court and the judge would have to decide. Here's another way where you can violate probation without having been convicted in a court of law. If your name is mentioned in reference to a felony offense, or even if somebody has accused you of a crime that actually occurred and they don't have a suspect, that in some states qualifies as a violation and they can take you into custody. This has been challenged by the Supreme Court, but if you are implicated in a crime, a felony offense, and there isn't a suspect, they can violate you based merely on the accusation. Now, it can't be some wild, zany, out of this world accusation. A crime has been committed and there's no suspect. You can be hauled in with a probation violation. There's all kinds of ways probation can manage a person's behavior, but they typically aren't going to know about it unless it's reported. I have every right to file complaints with probation based on the shit that has happened. And a lot of it has to do with admissions coming out of Rage Pig's mouth. I have my opportunity to be heard, and this is it. It doesn't go through any YouTube demonic tribunal. What anyone else decides to do is what they decide to do. I make decisions based on what I feel is a justifiable approach to the abuse and the harassment. These behaviors that are so outrageously vile and highly questionable needs to be further investigated. Again, the reasons as to why anyone would be habitual with these behaviors, in particular when it comes to accusing others of being pedophiles and child molesters. This is something definitely should have been brought to the attention of the probation officer. If it's such a concern, the probationer should bring it to the probation officer's attention. But I think a responsible probation officer would inquire further. let's talk about the reasons that you're making these claims. And the probation officer, he needs to make a report. Let's get serious about this. But we know the situation. These types of situations where you have these abusers who set out and try to make a mark on the canvas, they want to be seen, they want to be heard. All it is an attempt to bring information forward, make it compelling, knowing good and damn well it's a lie. I maintain if someone's going to run around and make these allegations, they're the ones who need to be looked into. Well, let's make no mistake about it. The probation officer can order the person to cease the behavior, stop talking about the person, because it's very clear to everyone who wants to see it. These are all diversionary tactics, and diversionary tactics fail 100% of the time because those who work so hard to try to put these diversions front and center often have a whole cemetery of garbage that gets raised up from the dead. And this situation is no different. I hope you learned something about, in general, probation. Recognize just ordinary free speech would not be something probation would do anything about, but this extends so far beyond. Absolutely, probation needs to be pulled in. They need to be informed of all of this crap that has gone on and acting as if there's nothing wrong with what's going on and acting like they have every right to do what they're doing. Well, we know that's not the case because if they felt they had every right to do it and they weren't in the wrong or wouldn't get in trouble for it, why delete the videos? Why delete the live streams? Why go into the studio? Because it's very obvious that the studio was accessed. They checked all of the videos or all the live streams and they hit delete. They didn't delete them from the community wall. I stated it before, delete what the hell you want, but the timing is what I'm pointing out. If everything was so above board, if everything would pass muster, if you can't get in trouble for anything, you don't go about mass deleting your content that you were so proud of, that you thought was so great that it just took everybody by storm. The content was made for a specific purpose, to harass others. And I want to reemphasize, if you contact probation with respect to rage pigs or anyone, and you really believe that your rights are being violated, that you're being harassed, and the probation officer doesn't take action, go to the supervisor and just snake on up the chain. Listen, folks, I have more coming your way. In the meantime, buyer beware.